Hey, and really quick, Rebecca, just so you know, we spoke last week, and we had an opportunity last week to get together and kind of go over a little bit about what you done. I was surprised at some of the fantastic things that y'all do. I really would like much to have you let us know a little bit about your organization, what it means, and what it does.
Sure. So ATRI is the American Transportation Research Institute, but we go by ATRI. And we are the trucking industry's not for profit research organization. And we have one mission, and it's very simple it's research to improve the trucking industry's safety and productivity. And so our research portfolio is fairly large. We cover driver issues, driver health and wellness, hours of service. We've studied a lot of regulatory issues around hours of service, CSA. We do a lot of work in congestion and mobility and transportation infrastructure. So everything from identifying the nation's top truck bottlenecks to really working on the truck parking issue. And a lot of times, our research depends on the input of professional truck drivers. And so I'm very excited that you're having me on today so we can talk about a couple of the surveys that we're hoping drivers will take a few minutes to take part in.
Okay, why don't we just lead off with that? I think that's a great point. Why don't you just lead off into a little bit of what those surveys are currently ongoing that drivers can get involved in?
Great. We have two online that are reliant on driver input. The first is one we've had open for a little bit, so it has just a few more days that it's going to be available online, but we've had a tremendous response. And it's really to understand the motivations for why men and women choose the path to be an owner operator, independent contractor, or to be a company driver. And Dave, there's a lot of activity at the state level that would attempt to reclassify that independent contractor or owner operator relationship. And that would have a very significant impact on the trucking industry. And so we really want driver input to understand why I became an owner operator or an independent contractor, or why I chose the path to be a company driver. And there are different motivations for both of those. And we've had, as I said, we've had a tremendous response to that survey where I believe we're up over 1,800 drivers already who have responded, providing fairly detailed information on the motivating factors for the path, the career path that they chose, and then what would happen if, for owner operators and independent contractors, if that work relationship were changed based on state legislation. Of course, the most famous one is AB5 in California. And so it's really easy to participate in ATRI surveys. They're all available on our website, which is easy to remember. It's truckingresearch.org. So it's what we do at ATRI is trucking research. And so our surveys are all available on our home site at truckingresearch.org.
I,
The
you
other
know,
one we
oh yeah,
just launched, and that's our top. Sorry.
let's hear the next one.
The other survey is our top industry issues survey, and this is one we've been doing annually since 2005. Every year, participation in it has grown, particularly by professional drivers, where we go out to the industry at large, everyone, motor carriers, industry suppliers, drivers, law enforcement, anyone who has a nexus to trucking. And we ask them to look at a list of 30 potential issues and select their top three concerns. And for each issue that you select on the survey, there are potential strategies that you believe the industry should be doing to deal with those issues. And the issues are pretty wide ranging. It's everything from truck parking, driver shortage, hours of service, CSA, a lot of the things ATRI has done research on, marijuana decriminalization, independent contractor status. So I would encourage your viewers to take a look at the list. Again, there are 30 topics, but if your top concern is not on there, you are certainly welcome to write in a topic. In fact, driver compensation was the number 2 issue in last year's survey. And that's one of those issues that we initially did not have on the survey, but enough respondents to the survey wrote it in as one of their top concerns that we eventually added it to the survey. And as I said, in the 2020 survey, it was the number 2 issue overall. It was driver shortage, driver compensation, and truck parking at number three.
And as we talk about it, we had a little conversation last week, and one of the things that really surprised me is remember when we had the hours of service rules, that fiasco where you had to have two overnight, Saturday and Sunday, and you had to do your 34-hour break in a consistent. Do you remember that fiasco that was created by the hours of service rules? What did your organization do in that time for that to help facilitate that change?
Well, we're all about data and analysis. And so, really and truly, with all the changes we've had over the hours of service rules through the years, for each change, we've done an analysis to look at using data generated from drivers and from fleets and safety data and productivity data to look at how those rule changes have impacted the industry. And particularly when we had those requirement for two overnight rest periods, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., for that 34-hour restart to be legal, there was anecdotally, a lot of drivers who were very unhappy with it, a lot of fleets who were unhappy with it. And so we put our data analysis to work, and using a combination of driver survey data and truck GPS data, we were really able to spell out a very compelling reason why that particular provision of the hours of service rules did not work. For instance, using our truck GPS data set, it's over 1 million trucks worth of GPS data that comes into us in real time. We were able to show that forcing drivers back onto the road, what we all know intuitively, forcing drivers back onto the road early morning during rush hour just to get that 34-hour restart is just putting them in more congestion and, quite frankly, putting them at more risk and greater exposure for crashes with four-wheelers. When drivers were able to utilize the 34-hour restart without that 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. provision, they were able to more selectively identify when they should get on the road that worked the best for them. But putting drivers back on the road at 5 a.m. when all the morning rush hour traffic was starting was creating a safety hazard. We also, again, collected a lot of data from drivers who indicated that that particular provision actually created more fatigue on the part of drivers than less fatigue, which is what the hours of service rules are intended to do. And so the combination of a number of ATRI studies, obviously, it made their way to Capitol Hill, made their way to FMCSA, and we ultimately saw that 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. two overnight period provision repealed.
Yeah, it's exciting to know that there's somebody out there actually listening to the people that are infected and impacted, and put the data together, and forward that data to the organizations and the lawmakers and the people in the industry that make change. What basically propelled you into this to be the good listener and the person that actually goes out? What started this all for you?
Well, we've actually, as an organization, been around since the 1950s, but we underwent a reorganization in 2001. It was completed to become ATRI, and we've always been doing research. But when we became ATRI, we started relying on a research advisory committee, an external body of trucking industry stakeholders that includes motor carriers and trucking industry suppliers and driver groups. We have both OIDA and the Teamsters. And that group of individuals annually figures out what research we should be doing. And again, ATRI doesn't advocate, we're not a lobbying organization, we don't go into our research with a predetermined outcome, but we rely on our research advisory committee members to tell us what are the research topics that the trucking industry would really benefit from knowing the answers to. And then we set out as a professional staff to identify a research methodology. How are we going to collect that data? And then once we have the data, we do the analysis and we put it out there. And one of the hallmarks of ATRI, Dave, is we make all our research available free of charge for anyone who's interested. So our entire portfolio of research is available on our website as free downloads. And so I would encourage your listeners to check us out at truckingresearch.org if they haven't. Certainly take part in the two surveys, but also download some of the studies if you're interested in seeing our work on CSA or on hours of service. It's all available for anyone who's interested.
That's that, and I'm definitely going to get some of that information because I think it'll benefit me, and I think it'll benefit a lot of people. But from what I'm hearing out, it's great not only to get the data, but be a part of the data, right? While you come on and you talk to us and all the drivers that we communicate with, it's really important that they participate in these surveys, right? To hear their voice and to understand where they're coming from, correct?
Absolutely. I always like to say in research, more is better. And so when our data sets are more representative of the driver population at large, when we have more drivers of all types, owner operators, independent contractors, company drivers, small fleet operators, large fleet operators, we really want to represent the industry and the industry's input on whatever the topic is that we're studying. So the top industry issues. Again, in last year's survey, we had over 3,000 respondents. Just over a third of them were professional truck drivers. For each issue, we rank not only how they rank overall, but we also rank how drivers rank those issues. And so for professional drivers, the top three issues last year were truck parking, driver compensation, and detention and delay, issues we hear about a lot. And certainly the work and hearing from drivers and having their input in our research makes a difference. Truck parking is another issue where I believe ATRI's research has really started to move the needle on finding solutions. So many of the state level truck parking studies that are underway regularly cite the fact that ATRI's top industry issues has identified truck parking as a number one concern of truck drivers. And so we're starting to get traction there. Obviously, we would love to see inclusion of truck parking funding in the transportation reauthorization, but clearly at the state level, we are seeing the recognition by state DOTs that this is a critical issue for the supply chain.
It's fascinating that you're actually touching on some of the most important topics that I hear of every driver. I know out there as they hit the road and that truck parking is truly an issue that we feel for real, no matter where we go and what we do, being not only parking, but parking safely, and being in an environment in which you feel secure and where you feel like you can actually have amenities to when you park. Because not just parking on the side of the road, not only is that dangerous and it doesn't benefit anybody, but it sure makes it unsafe for the driver at large, whatever it is they do. And man, just so knowing that you're tackling the issues is comforting and exciting. And I can't wait for our people and everybody that's listening here to jump in and jump on their site. Would you do me again a real quick favor and letting us know where it is, what the website is, and all the information? Because I want everybody to make sure they understand where to go to get this information and add to your data pool.
Absolutely. And again, we have two surveys live, one on driver motivations for being an owner operator, independent contractor, or a company driver. And the other is our top industry issues survey. Both surveys you can access from our homepage at truckingresearch.org, truckingresearch.org. And the great thing is you can look on our website. We have a tab there called Research Hot Topics. And that's where all these issues that we've studied are listed, whether it's truck parking or economic analyses or the environment. And for each hot topic, you can click on it, and that's where you can download all of our studies that we've done on those various topics over the years.
Thank you so much for coming on, Rebecca, and letting us know a little bit more about what we can do to help participate in your studies and be a bigger voice in what's going on out there on the road and for truckers. And I would like to also invite you again back, maybe after some of these surveys are done and we go back and we revisit where we're at and we talk maybe specifically to the data and specifically to some of these topics as we move forward throughout the year and as we move, later in the year. Maybe you'll come back and go over some of this data points and give us an opportunity to do a little bit better research, and then you can speak to each one of those points specifically.
I would love to do that. I love talking about our research results, and I love telling the ATRI story. So I appreciate you having me on this morning.
Absolutely. And I want everybody to, hey, make sure you listen to what Rebecca's doing, what's going on out there, and understanding that your voice can be heard and change can be made, but you have to participate. You have to log on, you have to participate in the surveys, and you have to do the next step in getting involved. That's how change is made. And we appreciate you, your organization, and really what it is you do to help facilitate change. Thank you so much, Rebecca, and we will see you soon.